Make my own rules, play my own games. I don't give a what you
Hi,
say.
I'm Ray.
And I'm Steph,
And this is the SciComm Hotline.
where we gossip about all the cringe and exciting ways science is communicated in real life.
So let's bring the drama.
Wild and free.
Hi, Ray.
Hi, Steph. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. You have a background. You have like a digital background, which never happened.
Yeah, I know. But we're in the middle of moving, so my whole background is like boxes that I'm like a little too aesthetically ugly. So I'm just gonna put this fake little background on.
You look like you died and you're in heaven. Just blue skies.
Just levitating. I'm just like an angel on this earth, and I just wanted my background to like reflect that.
God is like, no, not you.
I get slapped and just like pummeled down straight into hell. If hell even exists.
Exactly. Together, sis.
Yeah, exactly. Well, how are you? How you were in San Francisco doing a science communication workshop. How did that go?
I was. It was really good. It was like an experience-based workshop, so it was mostly for like photographers and local journalists and photographers. So we were in a gallery space, and we did slow looking with images, and we talked about our vulnerabilities and slow looking these images and asking questions, and how the more you spend time with these things, with these images, you become more curious and you see things that you're not seeing before. And we kind of translated that into what does it mean to slow look other human beings. And through that, we talked more about like trust building and what all the elements of trust building. And oh my God, Steph, these are like local journalists and photographers, like that's their bread and butter. And one of the things that I do is I'm not an expert in photography, so I facilitate like what are the ways you use this item or this item, like empathy and mutual values and everything. And the things they were talking about and the suggestions were just so delicious. Like one of the what someone was saying, when I'm in the street and I'm talking to someone in the street to take pictures of them, I asked them to actually move closer to a wall, not closer to the street, because that's not safe. And they can have their back to the wall. And that would help them feel safe because that's how I feel safe. And I'm like, what a beautiful way to just like be so aware and caring of other people. And usually with trust building is like show it in very small ways too. And I'm like, this is such a small, big way. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it was really
Yeah.
nice, but also really heavy, man. Like, war photographers, conflict photographers, like it really humbled me. It
Yeah.
really, really humbled me.
I wish I was a
Yeah.
fly on the wall of that because yeah, like photographers, especially like documentary or like what is it called? Like photo yeah, I
A
guess like photo
journalist
document.
or
Well, there's like there's journalists, but there's like a specific type I guess like photographers for journalism is like a hyper realism, like when you're just capturing just like the
the
messiness or like
day-to-day life,
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's not always staged. It's just like very in the moment. And so I love that type of photography. But again, like they're always in the front lines of like crazy stuff. So I can only imagine just like the emotional toll that it takes and how even within journalism of just how especially when you're like in really intense news sections of just
mhm.
how it can take a pit of your soul every single time, but you just have to be kind of like so in the moment and focused on your job and get it done. It makes me think of when I was applying to be a digital man or digital editor for my local, not my local, but like the Nashville Public Radio. During my interview, I got to tour their grounds to see if I like, this is like a day in the life of working here or whatever. But they were in the middle of one of the journalists was going to be attending like a live hanging that was happening in Nashville. And I was like, yeah,
Oh, no.
it's the
Like a public
same react.
not public like an execution?
Yes.
Oh my
Like
god.
like at a, go to the jail to like witness this execution because they need a number of witnesses for this to happen. And
Mm.
so I literally had the same reaction that you just did, like gagged, open mouth, like gasped. And I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh my god, you guys do that?" And they're like, "Yeah, we do." That got brought up in my interview and they were like, "Are you going to be able to like handle this type of news? Like we have to be, like this is like the realities of being a journalist. Like, we have to be there when there's shootings, we have to be there when there's executions like this." And I was like, "Yeah, I understand that, but I still can't like I can still gag at that reaction that like, we still practice executions and like this journalist is just going to show up and write about it. Like that's so insane to like think about.
Oh my god, dude, that is heavy. That's heavy.
I
Did you
know.
feel that when you, because when you were doing your mass media fellowship on, like, a local newspaper too, was it, I remember the star of it. What was it?
Oh, the RJ, the review journal. It's called the Review Journal.
Did you feel that a little bit of, like, that pressure there too? Because you were still, like, reporting on things that were, like, happening.
But mine was very environmental, and I feel
Okay.
like I was lucky enough that in the summer, there wasn't anything, like, crazy happening. So,
Right. Oh.
yeah, so mine was just like, "Is the desert getting enough water?" Like, "We have this heat index where people are getting hot," So, it's just
Right.
it was very nothing crazy.
Yet.
Yet, I know, exactly, exactly. But, okay, let's jump into it. We are kind of, like, all over the place. Since Ray and I just kind of record whenever we can, we're not, like, up to date with stuff, so we're still talking about things that happened, like, months ago at this point. So today's episode, we went down a rabbit hole, and I guess, like, Ray's gonna start with a game, but our topic today is it persuasion or is it propaganda?
Yeah. We're gonna, okay, traditionally, we're gonna start with our hates. Was there something
Yeah.
this week, Stephanie, that you hated on?
Um, no, not really. Everything was I was pretty neutral. Yeah, pretty neutral. I had a pretty decent week. I think I'm just feeling super optimistic. I'm moving to Denver.
Yeah.
We're putting that into action. Yeah. I finished I went to London. When did we record? When I before after?
Oh,
I
I'm
was
trying
oh
to,
yeah, your last hate was me going to London.
yeah.
So I'm
So,
back from London.
yeah, how was London, Stephanie?
Buongiorno. Just kidding.
I was like, right into the pictures of stupid Stephanie with her stupid British pictures.
With her freaking photography. She thinks she's a photographer.
That's like,
Um,
good for
no,
you,
I know,
Stephanie.
I know. I was at Cambridge University. I got to see where Einstein and Isaac Newton went to school, and I got to interview a theoretical physicist, and he was so delightful, and I got to walk around and take pictures and eat gelato, but I was mostly working, but it was still a really good time.
Can I also say for people that don't have video right now, it's like every information you're adding, you're doing like a shimmy. It's like, and then I get this, and then I shimmy, and then I shimmy. Just appreciating this.
She's a slut for the
Nothing.
bike.
No, I love that. Nothing to hate on. Not just all for the rest of us. We will all hate on you, Stephanie.
Yes, yes, hate on me, hate on me.
That's a beautiful thing.
What about you? What are
Um,
you hating on?
so we had a whole episode on like Ray and Steph overshare again, and that was like mostly about like a surgery that I was gonna have. I had the surgery. One of the side effects of that whole process is like I have really like I'm having like this worsening back pain. Um,
Mm.
and I do exercises, I do like heavy exercise, I do keto, all of that. And I don't know what else to do, but like I'm having back pain and the back pain is getting worse. And I'm like one of those kind of people that like just stretching and yoga and stuff doesn't work on me because I think I'm like so competitive with myself that I'm like, I'm gonna relax even more with the stretch, which makes me tighten up more. So like
You're,
my
like,
physical,
hyperextended and tear a freaking muscle.
right, like something along those lines. So I'm doing like pelvic floor physical therapy, which ladies highly recommend. And she has been like very like in a way like a psychologist. She's like, I'm gonna take off my therapist, like physical therapist hat and like my normal person hat. Like, I think you're like pushing yourself too much. You don't have to like do a billion kegels like this. Like, you're okay. Like, you're tight. Like, stop doing that. Like, we need to teach you how to like relax, like all of your muscles everywhere. So she's like teaching me this like inhibition techniques, like Alexander techniques, so that I just learned to be like, I'm doing nothing. I
Mm.
am doing nothing. But, and then I had a conversation with my mom yesterday or the day before, a few days ago. And she's like, Ray, I decided like I finally want to like go do like hardcore like yoga or Pilates because I was thinking like you do all of those things and you're so flexible and you're so healthy. And I'm listening and I'm like, uh-huh, uh-huh. And she's like, yeah, I have this like back pain, so I want to do all these things. And in my head, I'm like, I'm not gonna tell her that I have, like, horrible back pain and yoga and everything is not helping because I really want her to do all these things. If mom, you're listening, which I don't think you are, hi. Um, so I just like cried. I was like, yeah, this is all great. Like, do
Great
it.
idea, great idea, yeah.
Great idea. Yeah. No back pain here. And then like I hung up. I'm following up with her. I think she's gonna be doing all of that. And then we were reading about this like propaganda and stuff, and I was like, am I doing yoga propaganda?
Oh my god, this can get me into a whole 'nother rabbit hole, but no, okay, keep going, keep going, keep going.
No, that's it, and
Okay.
I think a big part of it that we're gonna talk about is, like, the answer is not necessarily yes.
Mhm,
It's so much more complicated, and
mhm.
honestly, for anyone listening, if you think at the end of this you're gonna know what is propaganda, what is persuasion, you will not. You will
Yeah.
only know else. You would be even more confused than when you started listening to this, so this is our content warning. This you will just see how Stephanie and I are gonna go through our thought processes.
Yes. Disclaimer warning is that we're not experts in this. Okay, so this all sparked because after we finished okay, so our last episode talking about Ryan Gosling and the Hail Mary movie, at the very end, of course, me being who I am, I brought up, I'm like, okay, but is this propaganda? Because I went to the NASA museum and so many efforts to get people to, we had the space race. I was looking for that word of like space race that we had with the Soviet Union to try to be the first to get to the moon versus the Soviet Union. So it led to this space race. And so it led to like a mass marketing push to get America excited about going to the moon. And so I'm like, it's low key kind of like propaganda in my mind in terms of like, American excellence in that sense of just like, we're the best, we're going to do it first, we're great. And so
And
I was like,
everyone
okay,
else kinda.
say that one more time.
And everyone else is kinda horrible, especially in Russia.
Yes,
Right.
exactly, exactly. We can't let the Russians do it, the
Mm,
Soviets, the communists can't do it first. Only
right,
us freedom fighters.
right.
And so, I was just like, okay, like, is it a coincidence that Hail Mary came out before the Artemis 2 launch? And was it a part of this big scheme to, again, push American excellence or push space innovation? So, but Ray's countered me in terms of just like, well, isn't this a great idea of just like, well, there's so much funding that's being cut. Why not like use popular culture and media to like, give us joy and give us hope and push us to want to do space exploration and invest in science. And so I left that. I was like, okay, yeah, you're kind of right. Maybe it isn't that. But then,
Then I was showering, 'cause I was showering, and I was like, "Oh my god, is everything propaganda? Am I wrong? Am I naive?"
so then I'm scrolling as we usually do on social media, and I see Dr. Becky, who is like a physicist that has like a YouTube channel, and she came out with a reel that was like unpopular opinion. Artemis isn't about science. Essentially, like the cliff notes of her reel is that we're in another space race against China. We want to be like America, or the Artemis mission is wanting to get to the moon first because eventually it'll lead to like mining and space exploration or like building stuff on Mars or whatever. Like, but it's like it comes back to the core of America doing it first before our adversaries. And it sparked a lot of discussion in her comments because there are some people that were just like, yes, I've been saying this or whatever. But then other people are like, hey, this is like a slap in the face to like all the scientists and engineers that went into making this mission happen. This wasn't just for photography. This was for like, yes, a satellite could have taken pictures of the far right of the moon, but like this was also testing X, Y, and Z. And like, even with space exploration, like this is still going to be applying for jobs and whatever. But there is truth to what she was saying in terms of like this low key is another space race. So is this part of like, so it fed back into our question of like, okay, is this part of this propaganda or not? But I think one thing that like I didn't agree with, or some other people didn't agree with in space, Dr. Becky's reel was kind of like this false equivalency of just like, oh, we invested so much money in this at the expense of other science that got cut, other astrophysics research that got cut. Where I feel like that's like, I think I brought that up with you too, in terms of like, okay, well, war contracting gets a shit ton of money. So, but like the funding that goes to NASA is just a small amount of it. So it's not like a,
Acquisitions. 0.0 something percent of like our tax money.
Yeah, so to like for her to pose that like money went into this, even though it was like 93 billion, it's still a lot when we look at it, but at the expense, it didn't come at the expense of other stuff getting funded.
Mhm.
Like that's just like separate. But anyways, I sent this to Ray. And then Ray sends me WhatsApp and she was like, "Oh my God, Stephanie, like, am I wrong? You know, like, what is this?" And so like that kind of sparked this conversation of just like, okay, should we have an episode about like what is persuasion and what is propaganda? And so we did surface level research again, but I think this is where the backstory came from this episode.
Right, right. So I think to get us started and to understand like how we're like 17 minutes and I'm like to get us started.
Yeah. I need to cut the whole section of me trying to talk about my travel to a freaking airport that like had nothing to do with anything.
No. I want everyone to know that you worked in Hogwarts for a little while. So it would be kind of fun to go through some cases, just like a rapid fire style ish, and you tell me you think if it's propaganda or not. Okay. Okay. So me telling my mom or me reacting the way I reacted to my mom, is this like yoga propaganda?
I'd say no.
Okay. Do you want to do
I would say it's
video?
more persuasion. I would say more persuasion than propaganda.
Okay.
Because so in my surface level research, should we go into defining it before going into
Okay, then
these case studies?
let's wait. I'm gonna do these, and then we're gonna go through definitions, and then
Okay.
towards the end we're gonna respond more how we think about.
Okay, then. So let's just keep it surface level then. So
Yeah,
I think this is
surface-
persuasion.
Okay, persuasion. Okay, a smoking campaign against smoking, or like the whole campaign that has been going on for all these years.
I know this is where it gets messy, but I'm still gonna say persuasion.
Okay, an ad for supplements.
Ugh. Persuasion. It's I know it's all okay. I'm gonna tell you why when we go, but I'm still gonna say persuasion.
Okay. This is my last one. Have you been watching the Lego videos that Iran or some Iranian adjacent place has been making? So these
Mm-mm.
are this. I'll describe it. So these are this really well made AI generated Lego style music videos with very catchy music that is basically kind of like the US is evil. Like this is Pete Hegseth being this, is making fun of Trump, making fun of all of these different things. US da 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 da. All the world is so sick and tired of like America. What the fuck, America? Da 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 da. And it's a music video, and it's insanely popular actually in America. Like people are loving it.
I'm surprised I haven't seen it.
It might be like more like in like a specific sect of, I don't know, but like even like in threads like trending, I think sometimes like Iran dropped a new like Lego
Mm.
video.
I would say propaganda.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
We have that part. Should we
Okay.
just do a little bit of like mini history of propaganda? Just like
If you
where
have
we-
that in your back pocket, yes.
So it's interesting because like even when it started, like propaganda, we decided that it's a bad word, right? But it was basically started when the Catholic Church wanted to like bring in more like Catholics and stuff. So they have this like congregation of propaganda to basically spread the religion and get a lot of people back to from Protestantism to like Catholicism. And it kind of like kept going on, even the word seemed like something that wasn't necessarily negative connotation.
The root of it was like to propagate, just to like sow seeds, to like spread seeds around essentially.
Right. And it's interesting because like you can just like see it all over the history. Like even like one of the things that's always like kind of like interesting to me is like with Chinggis Khan, right? There's always this idea that like he killed like so many people. And yes, like all these rulers were horrible. So I'm not saying anyone is good. Everyone is like pretty horrible. But one of the things that is I think kind of like famous about Chinggis Khan is like he probably was very good at like fear propaganda. I think I might be like spreading misinformation, but I think there was this thing that was like he said like the word was that he killed like this thousands of people in this one city. And that was the story. And everyone like knew that, oh, he killed like all these thousands of people. And then archaeologists were like, oh, that's not possible. Like, first of all, there's not that many like people here, and we haven't seen these many remains. So he was very good at like this fear propaganda, so that people were like, "We're gonna surrender if this guy is coming." Like, please.
Mm,
Um, and then you see it like the most like the highlight of like the one that like people keep referring to it, especially because of their strategy, was the Nazi propaganda. They had Joseph Goebbels, which I think is like the worst combination of human, where he was like very competent in his job and like having propaganda and entertainment and news and everything, and he was a really 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 horrible person. And it's just yeah, it's a horrible combination. And they had like one of their strategies was that they would be selling this really cheap radios and distributing it, and people could basically like listen to their propaganda. And it kind of reminds me when you have nationalized internet, when you have like specific channels that are more accessible, social media platforms that at times like you're like, oh, they're free and so accessible, and you're like, why are they free and accessible and all of that? And then you have like, oh, well, these people can pay to have their propaganda in it, to have all these like changes. So it really goes all the way to today. But then I think one of the things that Stephanie and I like are learning is that people have different definitions for propaganda. So I haven't defined it yet, but this is kind of like some of that history.
yeah, yeah, because I think okay, so I'm referring to I looked online for just like what is the difference between persuasion and propaganda, and this article came up. It's a book chapter. Jowett is like the author. We'll put it in the show notes. But essentially, it's like what is propaganda and how does it differ from persuasions? But even in like the intro of this chapter, it went through the various iterations of like how these different researchers defined it. And so one that came to like the most recent one that I just got to on my very minimal research was like, okay, propaganda is a deliberate systemic attempt to shape perception, manipulate cognitions, and direct behavior to achieve a response that furthers the desired intent of the propagandist. However, in reading the introduction of this book was like, oh, it really comes down to like, who is the messenger? What is your objective? What is your thing? And it's like pretty much the pillars of what we advocate for in terms of like SciComm strategy. But I think pardon.
Like pick any of those pillars and make it negative.
Yeah, but again, yeah, but going back to like it's a neutral thing in terms of how it separates from persuasion is the freedom of choice. So I think that was interesting that I picked up was just like, okay, for propaganda, we are choosing our ideology and our objective for you to want to. So we're omitting truths, we're bending the truth, we're changing, we're narrowing your perception or something like that. And we're making that choice in order for you and pretty much using tactics of persuasion and marketing and all that stuff and messaging in order to get you to do the behavior that we want you to do versus persuasion and influence is more along from my understanding. Again, I could be wrong, but persuasion and influence is more of like, I am giving you these information, but you still like, I'm giving you this information. I'm persuading you to be like, hey, this thing is a little bit better than that thing, but I'm still giving the person the ability to choose. We're not choosing for them. We're presenting them with the information for them to choose.
Right.
So I guess it goes back to when you were asking about like your mom getting her to do yoga. It's like maybe it is propaganda because you admitted your truth in terms of the case study that you have back pain. But at the same time, she is making that choice. She already made that choice coming up to you to talk about doing. And wasn't you coming to her to be like, what exercise did I do? And you'd be like, oh, actually, it's only X, Y, and Z or whatever. So yeah, so that's like my limited understanding.
It's interesting that you say that, because I did see that, and I, on some ways, I agree with it, but there
Mm,
are, I think, examples that come to mind that I'm like, wait, but I think this is propaganda, and it does not adhere to this. So the example that you said, it goes so well with my experience of growing up in Iran, right?
mhm.
Where like you go to school every morning, like you have to like do this like, oh, I was gonna say like you have to say national anthem and something like you guys do the same, right? Um
Yeah.
or like you have to like do this chants of like death to America while like none of
Mm,
us like care about like
Yeah,
death
yeah.
to
I pledge
America.
allegiance to the flag, you know.
Right, and then we had to do, like, the "Death to America, da 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 da," all of that kinda stuff. Then we had, like, all this like, epic, like, songs of, like, "Death to America, the blood of our youth is, like, falling from your claws," and da 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 da.
Dang.
So and it's not, like, something that you can choose to sing or not, it's, like, a
Mhm,
part of
mhm.
that, like, in some schools, thank fucking God, like, that was not my school. Some schools when there were, like, protests, the kids, like, had to go to those protests. This is meanwhile, like, everyone wants to move to America, like Iranian I don't know how things have changed right now because of everything, but Iranians love America, right? Like, you have all this, like, shirts of, like, "I fucking love New York, everyone watches Friends," all of that. So and then you have, like, the national TV. If you have a satellite, that is illegal. You cannot have satellite. You cannot watch foreign TV. So to me, this is, like, very much a propaganda that is like, "This is the only thing you're allowed to watch. This is
Mhm.
what you have to do. You have to go out. You have to come in these protests. So in that sense, I'm like, this is, like, spot on propaganda.
Yeah, 'cause you're limiting choice. You're limiting choice.
Exactly. And then there are other ways where you're like a group pays magazines and art and murals and all of that to be like, this is the thing that should happen, or like, I don't know, like I don't know, like there's like a big tree industry and all the trees are like paying like money for like all these murals and stuff that is like, trees are the only green things that should exist, every other green thing is trying to kill you, only
Mhm,
trees, right? But
mhm,
it's not, it's like a mural and it's like in a booklet and it's an ad. So it's not
mm.
forced upon you, but it's still propaganda. You
Yeah,
know what
it's
I
still
mean?
imagery and images that are being, like,
Mm.
subliminally pushed out,
Exactly.
propagated.
Exactly. Right, right, right. So in the same paper, and I'm curious about your thoughts, there were some other definitions. Like some people were like, no, it's just that. Some people wouldn't even include that, like had the
Mhm,
definition so open. And it was kind of like, if you want to persuade someone, but like you're manipulating the information or something. The ones that I felt like I was like, I think more on board with that was like, one, there was like a bias in the way you were presenting the information, but it wasn't just bias. It's like a bias that benefits you as the
mhm,
propagandist
mhm.
more, like so much more than the person that is getting the information. And maybe that's where you think of like the smoking campaign, right? Where you're like,
Mhm.
no, no, but the smoking campaign is really there to benefit the person so that you don't smoke, versus a big oil propaganda is very much about this like oil industry making as much money, or like smoking propaganda, right? Like all
Mhm.
the doctors smoke camel.
Yeah, all the
Like
famous Hollywood people pulled out a Camelback, whatever.
you're right, and then you see it in entertainment and ads and
Mhm.
everything. But then it like power and the benefit of the propagandist becomes so much more salient and
Yes.
defining of what is propaganda.
Yeah, and I think that's where it gets messy because it's like, okay, us as independent science communicators, we get paid to like help with campaigns to like like you use this example of a lot of just like, okay, we want people to start planting native seeds. Would that be
Mhm.
considered propaganda?
Right,
'Cause
right, right,
'cause are
right.
we 'cause we're used 'cause it's like very another a definition that they had was like, it's very organizational. It's very like, when they think of systematic, it's just like large amounts of efforts and like money to put into like pushing this thing out, which now it's become messy because we're in such a like a creator and influence and like ads have always been around, but now it's just like part of like our even like our day-to-day ecosystem with like people making how people make money of just like, I'm going to sell you this thing. I'm going to sell you this thing. I'm going to sell you this supplement. I'm going to sell you this TikTok hack, whatever.
Right.
And we're getting funded by these organizations to say, like, this thing is good. So buy this thing so then I can make money and this organization can make money.
Mhm.
And so, and so, like, it gets messy into it's like, okay, then are all ads propaganda? Like, are all ads propaganda to an extent? But then I think that's why I like the context of just like, okay, with persuasion, it's like you're still giving the person the freedom of choice. But I guess like, is it a false idea to believe that you have a choice when you are being fed so many ads and like subliminal messaging and imagery to like say that
Mm.
this one thing is better than the other or this choice is better than the other choice. So, oh my god, so messy.
So I think you're right, like, where you're like, with persuasion, you're like, well, what if we have good persuasion where you're like, it's ethical, and I'm letting you know, like, hey, I would love to change your mind on this. Here's what I can give you. Obviously, it's up to you. But then also there's like all these, as you said, like all those like subliminal ways of like persuading someone with like imagery and ads and like very like undercover or like psychological ways you can persuade people. So I think one of the ways I also thought about it is that, okay, persuasion is trying to get people to think a certain way or do a certain thing, right? So to me, persuasion is like the bigger umbrella that it can become unethical, and propaganda can use persuasion tactics to do a thing, right? So
Hmm.
it's very much persuasions is like a collection of like these tools but persuasion methods is a collection of tools that you could use for propaganda. So even like advertising and all of that then will end up being like, is it ethical or not? Like it feels to me that propaganda in some ways is like a subsection of like defining ethical persuasion. It's like, is it
Hmm.
ethical persuasion or not?
Hmm.
Is it connected to power? And
Mm.
then it falls. So when you think of maybe like the planting native seeds, is that like what are the benefits? Is anyone getting harmed in the process? How big is
Mm.
that harm, right? Like this money, am I exploiting people where they're getting harmed while I'm making more money? Or no, like I make more money, but you're also gonna be so better off, and your children and the society and all of that. So it has to be seen in a bigger context for us to be able to say, like, is it propaganda? Is it ethical persuasion? Is it unethical persuasion? And then would like advertising fall somewhere, like fall somewhere in between those?
Yeah, because I think one other another video, small video that popped up was just like this woman who was like, hire me. I'm a communication consultant, da 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 da, whatever. But she was talking just like had like a quick little 5 minute video of just like this is the difference between persuasion and propaganda. But I forgot what it was, but it did come down to like the ethics of it, like where she was like ethos and pathos. I forgot what those means, but it was just
Oh,
like,
yeah. Okay, getting people to trust you based on like trust and ethics, getting people to trust you based on logic, numbers and data, and getting people to and not trust you, but like persuade someone based on emotions and feelings.
yeah. So came down to like, okay, as like the consumer or the person that's getting this messaging, that's when like having an understanding of like SciComm 101 or SciComm strategy is just understanding like, okay, who is the messenger? Like what you're saying, what is the bigger system and power at play? Like, yeah, am I feeling manipulated or am I feeling like this is genuine or disingenuous? Is
Mhm.
it attributing to any of these like larger feelings of like either rage or like extreme emotions or
Right.
care? And so I think, yeah, I think that's where like it comes back down to then like the manipulation of stuff. Cause it's like, okay, it makes me think what I think would be like a clear definition, not definition, a clear example of what propaganda is would be like white Christian nationalism right now,
Mm.
like how I always bring it back. I feel like I always bring it into politics, but it is again, it comes back to like
That's
politics.
propaganda, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of like it makes me also think of our conversation with like cultists that we had a while ago of just kind of like it's us versus them, like
Mhm.
we're othering something
Yep.
else. So like with white Christian nationalism, it's just like, okay, if you are not for Christianity and for like patriotism, then you are like against you're not an actual US citizen, or you fall for everything else, or you're, a leftist or whatever, everything else. And how our administration manipulates that in order to continue to appeal to this like very specific demographic of people or population, in terms of like using AI generated images of him depicting himself as Jesus, or just like
Fast
him.
forward, like, you're like,
I
you do
100
on your
but it's
audience.
so frustrating that that was like the line that like, oh, you crossed the line, Mr. President, not when he was doing AI generated images of going to freaking Gaza and building a Trump, like whatever. Anyways.
Right, 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 right.
But anyways, but still, it's very much just kind of like there was another artwork that was hung up in like the White House of just like exactly. And so it's just kind of like, yeah, you're harnessing on the strong emotions of just like everyone else is a bad guy and terrorists. But if you just follow God and God is going to protect our nation and where there's a war against Christianity right now, then like, be a part of this army of
Yeah,
just make America great again. So I feel like that is a clear example of propaganda.
100%. Yeah, yeah. I
But
mean,
I get go ahead, keep going. Go ahead, you can
if
respond.
you even just like the ice imagery is
Yeah.
like very much similar to like the older propaganda imagery where you're like, oh, but like this is the same propaganda imagery that is now used today, which is like makes it so in your face propaganda. But sorry, you were saying.
No, I guess I'm like, okay, so how do we bring it back into like the SciComm world? Because I know that you and I share a mutual friend where he believes that a lot of SciComm is propaganda of just like when we get paid to say make a video for an aquarium, for example, of just like visit this aquarium where we are doing XYZ to protect this species, or we're giving you education about the specific species, whatever. Like, is that propaganda? Or is it just like persuasion in terms of like we want you to come to our museum,
Right.
look at this cool science, and but we're still giving you the choice. You don't have to visit. We're not shaping we're not forcing you up to like this is the only good museum out there. And if you're not this with the museum, then you hate sharks. You know.
Right, right, right. I mean, that like goes again into like layers of interpretation. Like to me, if you ask me, I'm like going to a museum and do advertising or like doing messaging and persuasion around the importance of science and the beauty of science and the awe and everything in museums and all of that is a persuasion that is good for us and science and all of that and good for you because you are getting so many benefits out of all of that. So there's that mutuality. There's not that much like depending on what it is like power dynamic there. It is like I'm not trying to like use this like subtle as much like psychological things. It's kind of like I'm not like hypnotizing you like deeply weirdly and all of that. Like I'm trying to use like more obvious techniques. I'm not using unethical techniques. So I'm not saying like, oh, like you think like it kind of like how about Hillary's emails? Like I'm not bringing up Hillary's emails to talk
Mhm.
about museums, right? So there's like
Mhm.
all these like unethical strategies where you can like use getting to like shit talk other people or all of that. It's more about like why this is good and beautiful and all of that. And you can talk about benefits and negative sides and all of that. Um, I would say there is a part of science that I'm like, okay, to me, at times it feels like propaganda where we're not acknowledging the harms of science, right?
Mm,
When it's kind of
mhm.
like science has always been great and always
Mhm.
benefited and all that. And you're like, have you heard of the Tuskegee experiment? Have you heard of like, I mean, what is this guy? Not Mendel. I mean the Nazi doctor guy who was like famously was doing like the most horrifying experiments. I hate that. Like that's Mendel is not Mengele, and he was like, it's like that is science and medicine, and it was horrible.
Mhm.
So there is like times depending on like how you are talking about science and what your goal is that I think it could edge on propaganda with
Mhm.
especially I think in what we were reading is kind of like if you like half truth or you don't address the truth or don't talk about certain truths and I'm like yeah I think some of it is like more like when you deny it especially in these cases
Mm.
like, science is great and you're like science has never done anything wrong it's always been
Mhm.
great and you're like no, like, I think we do need to acknowledge some of that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. So two things that came to mind that we can either talk about or just like glaze over. Oh, I don't remember the other one, but one of them is just like, okay, COVID vaccines.
Mhm,
Is that propaganda? Because we had a national Oh, because that was another thing that I read on this chapter of just like where some when they were looking at the earlier definitions of just like there are moments where we technically are spreading propaganda, but it's for the sake of public health. And so like COVID vaccines were pushing of just like we're doing this for the benefit of you. but then where it gets but then I think we're omitting what was it omitting the freedom of choice when people felt like they were being forced to take this vaccine because then you couldn't even go to specific places unless you were vaccinated. So then, like, did we cross that bridge of what we thought was persuasion or propaganda for public health that was beneficiary to then, like, no, we are forcing you to do this thing and removing that freedom of choice in order for this thing to happen. And the for those people that are like anti-vax, they and what another narrative that they latched onto, which aside from like the freedom of choice being removed, was just like, okay, this benefits big pharma or if this benefits the government. So, ooh, I don't know. I don't know.
Oh,
I
this
don't
is
know.
very delicious. Also, can I say, Stephanie, I feel like this is a nightmare of sound bites. Like if
I
someone
know.
like these two science communicators, like PBS and Nigeria person, said like vaccines were propaganda. You're like, no,
I
okay,
know.
this is we're
Don't
talking about.
clip us. Don't clip us. Only we can clip us. Don't clip us.
Yeah, just post the whole thing, please.
Yeah.
Um, I think these are all important questions to have conversations around because people think about it. People will think about it, and if you don't discuss it, I think it's not gonna go anywhere. So two things come to mind with what you just mentioned, and I literally I was asking Michael this morning, and I was like, "What part of like was some of that propaganda? Like especially like with the masking that happened early on, where we were like, you
Mhm.
don't have to wear masks because like, and the goal was because you wanted healthcare workers to have enough masks. So there
Mhm.
was this thing I was like, oh, you don't have to wear masks, which wasn't exactly true. And he didn't like, I don't think Fauci said it like that, but I was kind of like the interpretation. And I'm like, was that propaganda? Because the truth was kind of there and not there. But I think
I feel like
for
that can be
me,
attributed to just poor communication.
yeah, yes.
Because
So
I
I
don't think it
think
was intentionally manipulative. I don't
right.
know.
I think that is exactly the point of it. I think some of it is like that was poor communication. And we talked again and again that intention really matters. And I think in this case, the intention is like like COVID is going around like killing all these people. Like there are strategies that have to come in policy decisions. And I'm not saying I agree or not agree with the policies. That is not my place. I'm not a policy maker and all of that. I'm just saying to me, that was more for the benefit of the people rather than the benefit of like a decision maker, right?
Mhm,
And I don't know
mhm,
about like the whole vaccine industry and all of that. It's like a whole other thing, which
mhm,
should we should talk about. But like in my head, I'm like, oh, that really complicates it because they would
mhm,
benefit monetarily. But
mhm,
the two things that come to mind is one, I wonder in a lot of these cases, these are just subjective things.
mm,
Even like something like an ICE ad that I'm like is propaganda, someone would see it as like, this is good for the nation, it's
National
good for
security.
people,
Mhm.
national security, all of that is a propaganda because no, I don't think it's like benefiting me one side. I think it's like good for everyone. You know what I mean?
mhm,
The
mhm,
second thing is like if I consider vaccine communication, but like there's like one thing, it's like one side is like the communication part of it, one side is like what I'm asking you to do or not to do, and I think those two are like a
mm,
little bit of a separate thing. But if I like the forced thing is about the forced consumption of information, not necessarily the forced doing of the thing. Like getting the vaccine is not the propaganda. It would have been if I make you watch all the vaccine ads. However, if we assume for a second that making you do something is a part of that propaganda,
Yeah, because it
does
wasn't the
when
definition like a behavior change. Like you want them to
right, right,
do
right,
a
right,
specific behavior.
right. But even if it was, would as making people wear seatbelts and asking people to wear seatbelts propaganda? You can't drive if you don't wear your seatbelt.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because
So
it turns into like a persuasive campaign that turns into policy for like public health. Ooh,
right.
yeah. Mhm. Mhm. I don't know. Oh, yeah, yay. Yeah, yay. Because then, okay, so I'm thinking back, trying to bring it back full circle to Dr. Becky's thing in terms of like the space race. Part of me doesn't feel like this is, I think it is a good marketing strategy in the terms of like, okay, say I don't believe that the government was behind the release of the Project Hail Mary. you know?
Right. I hope it was
But
not.
I hope it was not. Again, we don't even know. But
Mhm.
my whatever understanding that I have, my assumption is that it wasn't.
Mhm.
It was just like the at least the decision makers in Hollywood that like greenlit this project and the people that decide when it gets released, they took an opportunity to be like, "Oh, we know this Artemis mission is going live. It will be a great strategy
It is great, yeah.
to exactly
Exactly.
to launch it before the Artemis things, because then
Mhm.
you now and then also again, like, bringing back into, like, the marketing tactics that we talked about last episode of just, like, they brought in Dr. Becky, like, Dr. Becky got to talk to Ryan Gosling, Scientific America got to talk like, they're bringing in scientists into these conversations to kind of, like, blend the pop culture with scientists and science or whatever, so we get people excited about this. Um, but then NASA is really good at their like marketing and communications in terms of like, okay, like we have a stream going on all the time. Like people have swag, like people feel they, now we have this thing, a new term, which is like moon joy, like of yeah, like so it's like really good marketing and strategy in that sense. But I don't, but again, I think the intent is then of just like, okay, space is cool. As the propagandist of NASA would be
This is all
like,
allegedly. We're making assumptions.
no, no,
Don't
no.
sue.
I'm not saying them as propaganda, but like to the definition of just like the propagandist, the person spreading the marketing strategy and talking in that context
Mhm.
of just like their intent is again like they want to stay sustained. Their funding is always being cut or threatened, but the furthering of space exploration can help with like future innovation or future discoveries, even if some of those harmful discoveries could be mining, or extraction or whatever. But I guess it's like less harmful in a sense. But again, it depends on like who you say. Like I guess like that money could go towards other things that are
Right.
important, or whatnot. So I don't know. So yeah, so like it's so messy in the terms of like every like I think that's why sometimes science communication gets me like a little upset or not upset, but like sometimes that science communication falls underneath the umbrella of marketing because we are using tools of persuasion, of slight manipulation, of slight this and that. But I think what makes it a little bit different is that we are trying to ground it in truth of like this is the scientific research, that this is the current consensus for this specific thing. We're presenting you this information for you to make the cognitive decision if this is helpful for me, so then I can make the choice to either do X or Z behavior. I'm going to try to persuade you to do Z because of these other reasons, but again, like having that choice there for you to like opt in, I think is what really I think at least for me distinguishes the stuff. Because in another okay, I remember the other example. We're already at 50 minutes, but the other example that I thought of was I have a friend, so I love Vox videos.
Mhm.
And I have a friend who was like, "Hey, I don't like watching their YouTube videos anymore because I felt it was a little bit manipulative." Because going back to like how we do storytelling for media, like we use music to kind of
Mhm.
like or not persuade, but we use music to manipulate emotions in order
Right.
for people to do these things, or how we sometimes when we present documentaries, not every documentary is factual. Like it is factual, but then who did that documentary, there's going to be a slight bias or a slight angle or a slight perspective that they're showing, and they're only going to show you that information that aligns with their story and their perspective, that adds like the manipulation tactics. So like would that be considered propaganda?
Right, 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 right. Yeah, this is kinda like, Ha Hank Green, oh my god, John Green Hank Green, he did, like, a video that was, like, against this other video that was talking about, like, "The weather is not changing, it's always been like that." And then he did a video on it, and they did a video, I think they or someone else did a video on that, and the thumbnail is, like, Hank Green, like, very angry, like, "Ah!" And there's, like,
Mhm.
a red halo around him, and then, like, the title is something like someone, like, did a caption of, um something like manipulation related. I can't remember, like, "Oh, Hank Green is, like, trying to manipulate us, da 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 da," and then Hank Green was like, "Oh, just checking, do you think like this, like me looking angry with a red halo around me is like not manipulation? Something to the effect of that. And
Mhm.
it's kind of like, yeah, like any color that you choose, any music that you choose, any font, all of that is a part of those. And a lot of times, like documentaries, movies, all of that, like they use it and it's beautiful and it's a great way to get people to hear your message, feel the feelings you're feeling, and at the same time, I think at the end of the day, it gets to what is your intention? Is it for the good of you and the other person? Is it something that is ethical? Is it like how much of it is that person realizing, like, hey, I'm trying to persuade you? I'm trying to, not like exactly the same like sentences, but so that someone knows what the goal of this video is, not like an undercover me trying to change you, which I don't think is always a bad thing. I think a lot of, like, movies have, like, hidden messages that I actually appreciate. Like, I might not be open to them if it's, like, too much in my face. But yeah, all of those complications come with it. Should we go through the list again?
Sure.
Okay. Me and my mom with the yoga, I don't think it's propaganda. I think it's because I want the best for my mother. And if my mom like kind of asks me, I would tell her, and it's not a power dynamic related thing. So I agree with you on that.
Mhm.
Smoking campaign we talked a little bit about. I don't think like there's like a big anti-smoking industry that is benefiting, and I think it's for the
Yeah.
good of society. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, like, I guess we're going back to your examples, like, the propaganda of, like, smoking is cool would be
Mhm.
considered propaganda, but I guess we're using the same tactics to spread this campaign, but again, it's like if it's for the beneficiary and not for the or I don't know what's the difference between beneficiary and beneficiary. I don't remember.
The person benefiting and the person
Yeah.
whatever.
The propagandist or the person being consumed or whatever. So like, yeah, like they don't like to get people to not smoke is not feeding to the establishment, you know. So I
Right.
think like that would be more persuasion than
Right.
propaganda.
Right. Even though, like, it's like, if it's a completely unbiased smoking campaign, maybe they should talk about how enjoyable smoking is and that social smoking is actually people come together and spend time laughing and having a great time, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
those are the parts we don't talk about, but, like, I don't think of, like, "Don't be biased, talk about how great smoking can be," you know?
Yeah, because we're still using they're using fear as a manipulation tactic of just like, "This is your lungs when you smoke," or like that person that's like, "Nah, nah, nah," you know, like they show that person that had like their freaking like whatever, their layers like
All
yeah,
of that.
exactly. So like, I don't know. It is propaganda, but but is it public health campaign? I
No.
don't know.
I mean, for me, because of the benefit to society and who is not getting the power and all of that, it's
Mhm.
not propaganda.
We're moving power from the big smoking companies. And
Right.
so I
Right.
guess like, yeah, so we can think
Yeah.
about it in that framework.
Yeah. The supplement ad is complicated. I think we depend
Because
like what supplement and what was that.
yeah, because I think that's also messy too in terms of like, okay, talk about science being harmful. Sometimes, supplements can be beneficial for you. But now it's gone to the extreme where like we're now not trusting modern medicine and everything can be solved with this supplement, but then now every influencer or like,
Right.
Bitch.
now we have big wellness in addition to big pharma, so like so I don't know. I don't know. I think it's going to I guess like, it's subjective in terms of it's going to come down to like who is the person selling it, who is the one,
Are they
is it
lying?
just a small person? Yeah, exactly.
All the like so much of like supplement stuff is just outright lies
Yeah.
about like "This is working." It's like, no, this is not working. This is filled with this. It's like, no, it's not. So maybe
Mhm.
that. I think the most obvious one is probably like the Lego videos that
For
Iran is
sure.
making, and I'm kind of like, are you talking about the Iran side of thing of how horrible they are to their own people and how they have like killed and destroyed and did all of that? No, I don't think so, honey. It's
Mhm.
very much to like benefit a power and
Mhm.
like change the attitude and everything around that power. So
Mhm.
very in
Mhm.
your face propaganda. So at the end of the day, I guess the answer is like we don't really know. We're not sure.
Yeah, I say like this is just our opinions. Okay, and then bringing it full circle, do you think that Project Hail Mary was propaganda?
No, I think first of all, like I am biased and I loved it so much. And there is like so like Top Gun. I really like
For
Top
sure,
Gun.
that's very like
And I'm
pro-war, you
like
know.
kind of, and I'm like I can appreciate people that are defending the country and other places. Like I appreciate that so much. I want this. Like this is something that I want. And I know people are putting their lives to defend other people. Like I know fighter pilots that are like the loveliest people and genuinely do this because they care about their communities, their families, their country, and all of that, right?
Uh-huh.
And truths can exist where I could be like, I love this movie. I
Mhm.
respect and appreciate the people that are like fighter pilots and all of that. And I think this is could be a part of a propaganda arm to be like,
The
let's
military is cool,
funding
you know.
this, and like the military is cool, and like let's not like the military can be cool in these senses, and it can be
Mhm,
horrible in these other senses, and let's
mhm,
not talk about those parts. And it's the
mhm.
not talking about those other parts that I'm like, oh, but that's where you're like none of these people like is a character like conflicted about like I killed this person, I did that,
Yeah.
humanity in this other person. And when you don't have all of that, I'm like that falls in the realm of like propaganda. um
Mhm.
with Hail Mary, I I do think there's part of it where like some of these characters, it's kind of like we don't give a fuck. We're gonna kidnap you and put you in this thing. Like that's horrible.
Mhm.
That's so
Mhm.
horrible,
Mhm.
right? You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Or I don't know. I think because in my head, like the aerospace industry and all of that, not aerospace, but like the space field,
Mhm.
I'm countering myself because I was gonna say like it benefits society so much. I'm also like, well, as you said a million times, the military and defense industry has had so many benefits too.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
I think
mhm.
it's like the what do you call it? What's Tarozu? The weight
The
thingy,
scale?
the scale of like, well, the military has also killed a lot of my people and other
Yeah.
people versus like the space industry. I don't think it has. Like, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
really mad at like satellites completely destroying night sky. I'm really mad about space junk. I'm really, really worried about the billionaires that are gonna be mining on all these different planets and stuff. I'm really worried about who gets to get out of this world. I'm really worried about like space tourism and all this carbon footprint. But the scale is not insane yet. I sound like
Yeah.
David Attenborough when he's like, the pup is safe, but not for long.
Oh, well, this is a fun discussion. This was a fun discussion. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think. Send us. No one emails us. I think we just do a bad job at marketing ourselves too, or no one wants to admit their drama. What's the hill that they will die on that we can have like a conversation on?
Yeah. Can I say something? I feel like we're the least propaganda people because we shit on ourselves so often. And so
For
if we're
sure.
like, "We have no audience
Yeah.
and no one emails us, we're so lonely and sad and miserable."
I was like, does everyone like, are we part of the problem? Just like, not everyone needs a podcast. It's like, we don't need a podcast, but we're doing it because we love it and we love each other. All
Sorry.
right, BB, this was fun. And yeah, email us at SciCommHotline.com and we'll see you. Oh, we're going to have some guests. We have some guests lined up. We finally have some guests, so we're excited. So be on the lookout for our friends to be coming on here to talk some smack.
Yes, we're excited. Okay, love you. Bye.
Make my own rules, play my own games. I don't give a what you say or think or do. The way you live your life is up to you.